अध्यक्ष महोदय, जनरल पाटिल, एडमिरल रमनपुरी जी, कल में देश की राजनीतिक राजधानी में था और मेरे लिए खुशी की बात है कि उस स्थान में हूँ आज जो शायद देश के हम आध्यात्मिक राजधानी मानते हैं, हरिद्वार को, वो भी महाकुंभ के अवसर पर। मुझे यहाँ ये आदेश दिया गया है कि अंतर्राष्ट्रीय समस्याओं को ध्यान में रखते हुए हम अपनी सुरक्षा के लिए, अपनी खुशहाली के लिए किन किन किस्मों के चुनौतियों का सामना कर रहे हैं और उन्हें सामना करने के लिए हमें क्या नीति, क्या साधनों की जरूरत है। अगर आप अनुमति दें तो मैं कुछ अंग्रेजी में बोलूंगा। मेरा ताल्लुक मद्रास से है, लेकिन कोशिश जरूर करूंगा हिंदी में भी बोलने की। Ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to be here. I was asked, Mr. Chari, at some stage as to what capacity I was being invited here, and he said as a distinguished diplomat. I said once we retire, we are no longer a distinguished diplomat, we are an extinguished diplomat. The reason is that many of us remain silent, and perhaps I keep a rather louder loudspeaker with me, which has not yet quite extinguished me. I've been asked to speak on the challenges we face, global and regional. And I'll focus it down to what we have at the moment. Let's be clear, any country is viewed in the world in terms of what is called its comprehensive national power. Comprehensive national power is made up by your size, your national unity, your political institutions, your economic strength, your soft power, that means your ability without using force to influence others. Certainly, Bollywood is a part of Indian soft power. And finally, your covert power, your inability to influence others without use of force, but by using covert, unseen means. I think in summing up this, one thing we should be very clear about, what are the limitations of power? And let us be clear about what are the limitations of Indian power. Firstly, why are we respected in the world? For a very simple reason, India's democracy is unique in the annals of world history. Never before in world history have so many people with such diversity, linguistic, ethnic, religious, lived together as one nation state. Nowhere in the world except in India today or ever in history has that ever happened. That is your strength. Now I will speak of your weaknesses. Our weaknesses include, within our body politic, corruption which erodes the moral fabric of our society, and an economy in which our economic surpluses are limited. Let me give you one example. In the 1950s, India's per capita income was roughly the same as China, as our neighbors in Southeast Asia. Today, China's per capita income is 3.5 times that of India. One other little figure, our role in world economy. India's foreign trade barely constitutes 1.5% of world trade. India's total exports are less than 70% of China's trade surplus with the United States. So when we measure Indian power and ability to influence others, I think it's important to realize our limitations. world today, if you ask me, is shaped by a number of factors. A predominant United States with relatively declining influence. An emerging Asia, which in the next 20 years or the next 30 years is going to lead to a situation that the balance of economic power in the world is shifting from the Western world back to Asia. The situation which prevailed in the early 18th century is returning. I was in London recently and a Britisher tried to lecture me, and I made an interesting point to him. I said, look, you guys took us over not by conquest, but by the East India Company. You bought us. Today, Indian investment in the United Kingdom is larger than the United Kingdom investment in India. So I told him we are back to the 18th century. So I think this is a transformation which is taking place, and that is why to consider ourselves today as a big daddy in the world is premature. We certainly are an emerging power but lack the economic clout to deliver. But it is happening. As I said, you are seeing Indians buying up huge numbers of concerns abroad, investing abroad in various sectors. In this world order, I think the most serious problem we do have, first of all, an unstable neighborhood. And historically, problems of borders and so on have remained. We face a genuine challenge from China. I don't call it a threat, but a challenge. China will not grant India strategic space to grow its influence in the world. It will do so in a very simple manner. Transfer weapons and technology to Pakistan and get you tied up in South Asia. So remember, when you're dealing, I was telling a Western audience, when we are dealing with Pakistan, you're not dealing with the Pakistani nuclear program. You're dealing with the Chinese nuclear weapons program in Pakistan. That is the challenge that we are faced with. Within our neighborhood, I think in the last 20 years, we have made substantive progress because apart from China, India is today the fastest growing economy in Asia. It is likely to remain so at least in the coming decade or two. The other point is that we are now in a situation where the other economies are getting more closely integrated with ours, particularly in South Asia because of SAARC and the SAARC free trade area. You find, for example, in Sri Lanka, the largest investors are India. Their industry is now largely India-focused. Their tea industry is turning more towards India. I think we need to be more liberal in dealing with our neighbors on these matters. That's equally true in our relations with Nepal and others. But I think we are going in the right direction. The challenge we are going to face, whether it is in dealing with Nepal or Myanmar, particularly countries in our east, is going to come from China endeavoring to tie us up and prevent India's emergence on China's neighborhood. I believe the answer to that is to provide Vietnam the same sort of capabilities that China provides to Pakistan, but that's a different story. I will basically during this talk focus on our western neighborhood, which is Afghanistan and Pakistan. As I said, I'm reasonably satisfied that the rest of our neighborhood is becoming more and more economically integrated, that if we conduct our policies properly, you can emerge as a major economic hub and a source of benefit. For example, if we conduct our Nepal, Bhutan today has the highest per capita income in South Asia. Bhutan's per capita income is roughly double ours. And the reason is very simple. We've conducted our relations sensibly.